Hello everyone, JR10 Desert Cold. Another day in the desert. Today's only 112 right now, so I'm relying on a little bit of hot prophecy to get me through the day. Yesterday I did a short introduction on spunding valve and why I think it is a very useful tool in fermenting and gas control, if you will. Getting control of the gas. This 1 gallon keg, if I wanted to force carbonate it, my normal approach would have been screwing a 16 gram CO2 cartridge into one of these micro regulators. So in looking at that 16 grams, how far will that get you in the carbonation of a 1 gallon? So let's look at how we would approach force carbonating a 1 gallon beer or 1 gallon container of beer. And would this be sufficient for that? The shorter answer is yes, it would be. 16 grams can force carbonate a gallon of beer to 2.5 volumes. And it would use up about 9.6, almost 10 grams of that. And then you have to fill in the headspace with CO2, and that would use up the balance of what's left in this cartridge. So technically, yes, you could force carbonate a 1 gallon beer with a single cartridge. That being said, you would need to remove the cartridge and put in a new one to use as a serving pressure. That is why I love the idea of this spunding valve. It uses its own carbonation from the fermenting to force carbonate itself. So you're not having to worry about whether or not your capsule is going to run out of CO2, and remembering whether you're using a full capsule or has it been used and it doesn't have the full 16 grams. So before I got intrigued with the spunding valve, I decided to look into larger CO2 canisters, and the one I went towards was the 74 gram, and I have an adapter because this will not screw into a normal micro regulator. You need a different type of regulator like the Micro 360 from Kegland. But that being said, I was under the impression that, like everything else you buy, if you buy in quantity, 90% of the time you're going to get more value for your money. So let's see how efficient this system can be in saving you money on CO2. For instance, as I said, if you just plug this in during fermentation, it's going to give off CO2 and carbonate itself. So it's a byproduct, and therefore it's free, basically. If you choose to force carbonate, 16 grams is going to run 11.2 cents a gram. So in thinking about it, I thought, well, if this is 11.2 cents a gram, what would a larger capsule run like this, 74 grams? Buy in quantity, you usually get a better price. Wrong. For whatever reason, the 74 grams and the 80 gram are more expensive per gram than buying more of the 16 grams. So I didn't go any further with this because I knew that it was a mistake, and so I decided to go one step above it, and this is a SodaStream type CO2 container. And the two ways to go about this approach: you can either have it refilled when you run out, and that would run 3.7 cents a gram. And if you buy it outright, it runs the price up to 7.8 cents a gram. Still considerably cheaper than what this would be. The 74 gram runs almost 21.2 cents a gram. It's the worst value of these canisters or these capsules. So when I started doing these kind of evaluations, it made perfect sense to start looking at these things and have the system generate its own pressure. And that's why I love the pinters, and I'm going to pretty much resort to pressure fermenting on all of my kegs because it's just easier to do and it makes sense. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with this now. I even printed out a stand for it, and I'll probably use it for pressure transfers if I start getting into that, but who knows. I made a nice little holder for my beer too. I love the green. And just so you know that I made sure priority is beer. Anyway, this is really just a short blurb on controlling your gas, which everybody should. These are convenient. They're not all that expensive. They just burn out quickly. I mean, if you want to force carbonate a 2-gallon, you're going to need 2 of these just to get the carbonation in there, and then you're going to need a third one to serve it. So out of 10, you've already used 3 of them. That goes pretty quick. That's why I was looking at these, and it turned out to be the wrong road to go down. This does work. It is financially makes more sense, but other than going to a 5-pound tank, which I won't do because I don't have the room, and I don't like hassling going to find somebody nearby that can refill it. So this is why I'm really jazzed about this approach. We're going to see coming up soon how that works out. Anyway, I got to go drink some beer because it's getting hot, or it's getting hotter. So I'll let you guys go. Have fun, be safe. GR10, Desert Gold out.